I was going to show you guys a few scouting tips today to use your mobile phone device or a laptop or anything that you would like to use. We're going to start by adding a truck icon here. Let's hear it work. This is going to be our access point on this map. All right. What I like to do is to pull into a place like this right here, and I'll park my vehicle. ATV or truck, it doesn't matter. And I'll get ready and wear some light clothing, something in case I get sweaty that I'm not going to burn up. And my backpack, I will have something to keep me warm if I decide to sit down. But anyway, what I'll do is I'll start out and I'll walk these roads. And I'll usually make a day just to do this. And what I'll do is when I find deer crossings and deer trails that I'll mark them, and I'll use my cell phone. I use Spartan Forge. It's my favorite app. Your guys' app may be something different, but that's what I use. And I'll go down these roads, up and down them, and I will find all the deer crossings. And if these roads right here are clay or an old logging road, which this is going to be an old logging road because that is a clear cut. You can tell that it's been logged recently. Then there's going to be tracks. And if this is gravel, or even if it's paved, there's still going to be tracks in these ditches, because every road's going to have a ditch. And you can just walk up and down these roads. You could ride a bicycle up and down these roads to help you, or if you're not able to walk this far, you could drive your truck, ATV, whatever, if your state allows it, or your management area, or your hunting area. But if not, just walk up and down these roads until you find these deer crossings. And I'm going to show you how to track deer without having snow. A lot of guys have to have snow to track a deer. Well, you don't have to have snow to track a deer. So we're going to come down this road right here, and we'll say right here where this transition is, we can see the transition right here. We find a deer crossing. So we'll mark that. And we're just pretending that there's a deer crossing there. There may be one there in real life. I don't know. Anyway, let's just say there's a deer crossing right there. All right. First thing you want to do, you go over here and I can put deer crossing. Go ahead and label that. Next time I use it, it'll already be saved. So when I get to this right here, I see a deer crossing. All right. First thing I'm going to look to see which way the tracks are going. Did they go this way? Did they go over here? And then I'm going to pull up on my Spartan Forge, and I'm going to try to determine where these deer was headed. Are they heading to go feed? Are they heading to go bed? What types of transitions are they? What type of terrain do I have off the side of these roads? Do I have some hollows? Do I have some hubs, or maybe there's some oak flats? Or I can see all of this from satellite imagery from my phone. And we can go ahead and tell right over here, this is going to be some hill country. So there's going to be some bedding along this. Wind-based bedding will be in here. And there will also be beds out in this clear cut. And there's going to be a lot of food sources out here in this clear cut. So first thing I would do is figure out which way the tracks are going from food to bed. The best way to do this would be to come in after season and you can follow all of the deer sign that the deer has left along this transition line. You can find old feeding sign. You could find old rubs. You could find scrapes. All the rut activity that was in here, you'll be able to find it. And when I'm in here doing this, I will mark beds. I will mark feeding locations. I'm going to mark it all because it's still going to be there. That's a miracle of before spring, before all the leaves start growing back and everything, all the deer signs still going to be there. And you're going to be able to tell what came from rut and what came from pre-rut. And here in Alabama, sometimes our deer are still rutting after season because we have our young does, our yearlings that are born, come into heat. So we have a late second rut of those yearlings being bred. A lot of times we'll have bucks chasing does that don't even have antlers anymore. So, and right after their antlers fall off is when their testosterone, drops. So they kind of calm down after that. But anyway, that's a different story for a different day. Once I find these tracks, I'm going to figure out where these deer was going. So I'm going to go over in here. I'm going to check. I'm looking for food or bedding. I'm looking for a water source. A lot of times these drainages will have creeks in them. Like I said, this is hill country. You can see that the hills are rolling in here, and this will work on flat ground. It doesn't have to necessarily be hill country, but I'll look for a water source. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to try to depict what was doe bedding. And how I figure out what doe bedding is something that a buck cannot fit into. If I know he can't get his rack in there, and I go in there and I have to bust my way in there, and I see a lot of doe sign, and there's no rubs and no scrapes in there, then I know that's probably a doe bedding area, and I'll mark it as a doe bedding area. And I'll do the same. Like when I find scrapes and rubs and beds over here together, it still could be a doe bedding area, but it could more likely be a buck bedding area also. You'll be able to find and depict, you know, just from scouting, what's buck bedding and what's doe bedding. And you do this by learning how to read sign. If you guys can't read sign, the first thing you need to do is learn how to read sign before you even try to track a deer. I don't care if you're tracking a deer in the snow, the mud, quicksand. If whatever you're tracking this deer through, you better learn how to read sign. And I can depict by looking at a track, whether if the track is old, new, or if it's been there a while. Sometimes, you can look at a track and you'll see maybe the track has water in it. You think about the last time that you had a rainfall. Was it the night before? Was it a week ago? Look at the track. See if they're, you know, the impression of the track is freshly cut. Does it have rounded edges? That could be an older track if it has more rounded edges and it's not as fresh looking. You'll tell a fresh track it's going to be fresh cut, and whatever was in the track as the deer lifted its foot up will be laying on top of the ground, like the dirt, the soil, the mud, whatever it is, and you can take your hand and run it around that track. And if it's still loose, then it's a pretty fresh track. As far as telling a buck track from a doe track, sometimes it can be hard unless you're hunting a mature buck, and most of those tracks will be at least 4 to 5 fingers wide for a really monster buck. Uh, Other than that, there's really not going to be a difference in your track. A lot of people say, "Well, I see the dew claws, I see this." You can tell by how much a deer weighs by its track. If you see its toes splayed, um, like its toes are spreaded real far apart, and you don't have the dirt blowed out in front of it like a running track. But you can probably go on any internet somewhere and type in fresh tracks, old tracks, running tracks. There's somebody out there that has already made a video about tracks. Learn those tracks. Learn which are fresh. Learn which are old. Learn the track first. And once you learn that track, then you're going to know that track. And you'll know that that's a fresh track or an old track or a buck track or a doe track. But I usually, if I see a big, heavy deer, its toes will be splayed and spreaded out further apart. I don't really pay much attention to the dew claw. But if I see those big tracks that are, 4 fingers and they're really splayed out, a lot of times that's a buck. And all you got to do is just get off this road a few, maybe 50 to 75 yards on each side. If there's a buck there, there should be a rub there somewhere, especially on a transition line like we have going right here. There should be some type of buck sign. So that would also give you an indication of what that track belongs to. If you go down through here and you don't find any buck sign, then I would probably say there was just does crossing the road. If you go down in through here and you don't see at least some historic rubbing, or same for both sides, or scrapes. Scrapes is a good thing to find, especially when you're tracking deer. So first thing I would do right here, all right, I found me some deer tracks. There's tracks going and coming, so that means they're feeding and bedding. Then I'm going to depict where the beds are and where the food is, and then I'm going to make a decision on how I will hunt this, and it will be based off the wind. And you have to use thermals in hill country, of course, so we will figure out what the wind and thermals is going to be doing before we plan on making, an attempt to hunt these deer. And another way to do it, if you find deer tracks, they're going and coming, is you could still hunt this. You could just take your time and slowly ease down the edge of this transition. Walk 50 yards, stop, sit down 30 minutes. Get up, do it again. Walk 50 yards, sit down and hunt for 30 minutes. And as you do this, you're not really pushing anything if you have the wind in your favor. So you wouldn't want to walk this transition and this thick stuff right here, which is probably going to have some bedding in it, with the wind blowing right into it. So you need the wind blowing out away from the bedding, wherever you find your bedding. Around here in the south, this is the Southern Appalachian Mountains, and a lot of our deer will bed in the thickest stuff they can find. Our bucks, not so much into the jungle. I call it a jungle a lot of times because it's so thick, can't walk through it. The deer can just seem to snake their way through this stuff, but a big buck, he ain't getting through there. And he will bed on the edge of this stuff a lot of times. Or he will just bed, a few feet away from the edge and be sitting here looking out and watching these openings. So the wind will be this way, and he will be bedding right here, or right here, or right here, wherever it is he's got a bed. If this is doe bedding, you'll be able to tell, because the first thing you're going to find on this transition is rubs of him marking doe trails. Every time you see a trail go in, a lot of times there's going to be a rub marking that trail. And if you see that, if the rubs are running this way and the transition is running this way, he went through there that way and marked that, because he is coming on the downwind side, smelling the does that would be bedding in this right here, if this is a doe bedding area. As far as over here, you're going to have more wind-based bedding. You're going to have deer bedding somewhere, along a wide parallel line. He will be somewhere along here. You will have the wind blowing across the top. That's another day, another time. I've already made a hill country video if you guys want to check it out. So there is thermals dropping and falling and all that. You can learn that in the other video if you want to. This is about tracking, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to move. Say we got down here, you can see right here there's a hollow and a draw. As a matter of fact, it's almost a small saddle right here, because you can tell that this comes up, hits the road, and goes down. So there could be a good deer crossing right here, and a lot of times the deer will walk these old roads. So right, we'll just say right here, you can see this is the very top. This is the top right here. That very round point is the very top of the hill. And then over here is a top. A lot of times these deer will travel from top to top, and they're going to use this as a saddle. So you come through here, let's say we find some tracks right along this area. We'll go ahead and we'll throw us our deer marker. The same thing, guys. I'm going to break out my Spartan Forge app. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to determine, what could be food, what could be bed. Why did these deer cross this road right here? You can see that you got this funnel right here. This could be a good spot during the rut. You could catch deer coming up these funnels, up these drainages, whatever some of you guys call them. Here in the South, they're called hollers. We're looking for oaks when we get off in here because it don't look like this got logged too bad. So anytime you can find some oaks in here, you're going to be doing really good. And then you're going to have to learn to go back to reading sign, figure out if this is bucks, if this is does. And if it's a rut, you want to hunt where the does are. So always learn where your doe bedding areas are because it's going to be a real key to tracking deer this way. And what I'll do sometimes is I'll jump off here on side of these side hills, and when I find a good game trail, I'm not talking about just a deer trail. You'll know it when you find a good game trail because it'll be really wide, it'll look like a human access path pretty much. You're going to have coyotes traveling it, fox, coon, deer. It's going to be just a game trail, and it's okay to travel those trails. I wouldn't get so much on a deer trail and walk unless I was tracking a deer, to hunt the deer. But let's just say right along here, there's a game trail. You get on those game trails and you can go through there. And if you start following deer tracks, you can depict which direction those deer went. You can use the wind in your advantage, and you can follow those deer by following them on the trail. Once they cross the trail, there you go again. You found another crossing that may be down in here somewhere, or you may be on this bench. We don't call them shelves in the South. These are benches. It's going to be a bench. There's a bench. Here's a bench, all the way up to the top. And then on the other side. But all of these roads can be walked and can be monitored for tracks. And a lot of times you're going to find some great, great hunting just by using these roads and looking at the tracks. I mean, you don't even have to walk. You could drive if you wanted to. And then right in here, you come up on, you got this little S curve. This right here will be the same, similar to as if this was water and this was an oxbow. You're going to have deer bed in these curves like this. They will bed right here. A lot of times they'll be, let's put some marker there. We'll just say that's a deer bedding there. They'll lay here because he can see down this road that way. He can see up here and he can see over here. And you got that, on all three sides. And all he's got to do is exit out the back. Or if it was bedded over here, same, it could be in here or up here. I mean, you'll be able to see the tracks where this is going across, but especially on a curve, a lot of times you're going to get in here and find beds. And you don't have to hunt too far off these roads, guys, to kill some really nice bucks. I mean, you could just set up, if you find the right sign, like even right here, this would be a good place because the deer's got this road all the way around them. It would love to bed right in here because now it can smell the danger because you got them surrounded. And what it is, you think that road has them surrounded, and that gives them some sense of comfort because they can hear, see, smell. Especially if there's a hill here, it'd be a good spot for one to be bedded. And it looks like there is a hill there. I do see a drainage going this way, so a deer would bed right in here also. So next time you're out, if you find tracks crossing right here, all right, let's go to the other side. Let's find where they cross right here. They may be crossing right here and right here. So then they crossed two roads. So if you set up in there, you have found you a gold mine. Because now you have something to work with. You're not out here in the open anymore. You have something to work with. You can get here and hang a set. You could get here, hunt on the ground. You could get in here however you wanted to hunt these deer. You could hunt them. And a lot of times, if I have two roads crossing, or like this right here, like this, you got a road here and a road here. If there's tracks crossing here, I'm going to go around here and see if they cross this road over here too in the same area. And I'm going to mark it with my Spartan Forge. Like right here, I found some tracks. I'd mark it right there where it's easy to just drop a mark, and we'll put a mark right there. All right. We'll say right here. Just like this right here. And there's a deer crossing there. We're going to go right up here. And that trail's still there. Where you could say there's a deer crossing there. I'm going to change the color. It's asking me to. We'll just switch over to yellow. And save it. Alright. Let's go right here. Oh, that's another marker. Alright, so we got tracks right here. You got a deer crossing. You got a deer crossing here. You know, if you get in here, when they come through these woods along some of these old trails and old logging roads and stuff, you're going to get a chance at these deer, guys, especially if you have the sign. If you have the buck sign, if you're hunting bucks, this can be really good hunting. I mean, all of this clear cut, there's going to be so much abundance of food in here. You're going to have, maple shoots, all types of ragweed, bullweeds, all different types of grasses that are going to be growing back in here. This is going to just turn into the thickest, nastiest stuff you ever seen. And if we zoom in, we'll probably see how green it is. And yeah, it's pretty green. But we can tell with the leaves off that this has been logged. So yeah, that's just one way of tracking deer without snow. I mean, you don't have to have snow. A lot of guys are like, well, we got to wait for it to snow to go track the deer. No, you don't. Hunting deer crossings is one of the best ways to get a white-tailed deer. And what's good is if you find a crossing like right here, you got tracks going and coming. You don't have to hunt far off this road, buddy. As long as you got the wind right, you can just set up. Same for any of these locations. You may not have to go 50 or 60 yards off the road, 100 yards at the most. But to find out which bedding is what bedding, I wouldn't do it during the season. I would do it out of season, like right after deer season ended, like the very next weekend or 2 weekends, or while I'm in here turkey hunting. I'm going to find where my does are bedding, and I'm going to find where my bucks was bedding. You'll be able to tell from the deer sign. And if this allows you to drive in here, then you could drive and mark this. You could map every bit of this in one day driving. It may take a couple weekends to have all these crossings marked, if you had to walk. But it's okay if you have to walk a little bit, because everybody needs exercise. Over here you can tell that you can see all that's going to be pine. So that's going to be real thick up in here. Probably going to be some bedding. It's also hill country, so you're going to have to watch thermals over in here and stuff. If you're just going to hunt that. Once again, you could follow this road, catch deer coming. You pretty much know they're not eating in a pine thicket unless there's nothing else on the earth. I've never really seen them just devour pine. I mean, they'll eat pine needles, cedar needles, and stuff like that. If they have nothing else, sometimes if you're tracking a deer, you're in the snow and you find where he broke off a branch and ate, some pine or something. They will do it every once in a while. If they're starving to death, then they will use this. But otherwise, this will just be for bedding. They may just probably use the edges again, find your transition lines. There's going to be transition lines all throughout these woods, and you're going to be able to follow them. And guys, I've killed a lot of deer using transition. That's how I hunt. Nine out of 10 bucks I shoot are coming from transition, from bedding to food. Say this is all bedding right here. I love to set back off these transition lines, which would be right here. I love to set off that transition and catch those deer traveling those edges. That's how I take a lot of my deer. Almost all of my deer is transition from food to bed. When I find that transition, that's how I'm going to hunt. But guys, use your deer crossings and use them. Be smart with them. I mean, this is a great way to hunt. You could do that on any of these roads. And if you wanted to, say you just found you just cut a big set of buck tracks, you could follow those tracks off as far as you could possibly can, and you just do a little still hunting. Like I said, ease in 50 yards, sit down, go in another 50 yards, sit down, and just keep looking. Glassing. Have you a small set of binoculars. You don't need to see too far. This is going to be thick, so just a little small set, a little small pair. Doesn't matter what brand they are. Just something to enhance your vision, and you could sneak right in here and find a buck Betty. Use the wind. Put the wind in your face, and get out and have a good time, guys. Try this tactic. It's a great tactic. That'll be all for today on this video. I appreciate everybody for watching. If you would like and subscribe. I do have some hill country video on my YouTube if you guys are interested in learning about thermals and where to hunt and stuff like that. So you guys take care and God bless.